Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Damage Report. I am John Adarola, and we got a big day to jump into. Sharon Reed is going to be joining us on the show, which should be awesome. We've got a lot of important news to talk about. Bidenomics, are they working? People aren't really buying it. Should they? Biden's going to try to make the case and be attacked by morons. But we'll have some actual critiques coming from a place of at least some intelligence. We're going to have to talk about one of the more disgusting stories in a while. You've been following the news recently. Do you know what story I'm talking about? Yeah, Abstract, how's it going? What's up, Lori? Bubba? Yeah, we're gonna have to talk about the new drop from Miles Taylor's book, and that has to do with Donald Trump's comments about his daughter. And as evidence in that, yes, Roller Dragon, you're right, we are gonna have to replay some video. Which is not, speculation from Miles Taylor. It's not uncorroborated. It's him on video talking about his kids. I don't believe in intelligent design. I don't believe that, things have been set up in a particular way with some sort of intention to it. I think that we're in a wild, chaotic world. However, there are things sometimes that don't they kind of make you think? Like, we're in a time when every right wing in the world is convinced that political elites, the rich political elites, are all pedophiles. But they don't care about these videos at all. It's almost too perfect. Anyway, okay, let's talk about some other news that's going on. We're going to talk about Christie if we get to 1,000 likes. If we don't, we don't. It's not on me. It's on you. Okay, talk about Christie. I think it's fun. I think that the other Republican nominees desperately need some help, and I think Christie is here to help them a little bit. So that's if we get to Wilson. I think a double Windsor is far too significant for this sort of setting. I just do the most simple thing because I don't want it to be this big thing. I'll do a Merovingian if you want. I'll do something crazy, but anyway, let's talk about some other news. Okay, so first of all, there was a Russian general that supposedly U.S. intel had knew about the fact that the Wagner Group was going to be doing their coup or protest, depending on who you talk to. He now has gone missing. Sergei Surovikin. I would not want to be Sergei. You know where I would look, though? I would go to a hospital or hotel room. I would find a high-up window, and then I would search outside right below it. That's what I would search. Yeah, no, there are going to be a lot of people coming out of this that are going to suddenly disappear. Not all of them will be generals, but the idea that all of the Wagner, soldiers or whatever, their forces, are all just, oh no, it's totally cool, man. You can go back in the military, or you go live your best life in Belarus. Yeah? You think that's how that's gonna work out? Anyway, let's take a look at some screenshots. I just find them to be fun. Here's one. Let me zoom in a little bit so you can see it better. Okay. Inflation, still a significant problem. We're actually going to be talking about it during our segment on Bidenomics, but barbecue staples skyrocketing due to inflation. And as always, you put some evidence, man, some visuals, spice it up. Look at that. Hamburger patties plus 4%. What's that? Pork minus 6%. Chicken minus 9%. Hey, I'm not an economist or anything, but I feel like you're lying. Anyway, look, there are inflation prices are still rising higher than what the target is. That is true. It's down significantly from the previous year, but it is still rising. But can you just talk about the inflation that's actually happening? But that's not enough. See, July 4th is coming up, so they need to theme it to whatever's going on. If it was Halloween, then it would be candy corn is, down by 6%, and that proves that inflation is happening. If we get 3,000 likes, we wear a tank top. Yes. If we get to 3,000 likes, I will wear a tank top at some point with my jacket on and a tie. No. I don't think it's going to happen. We have gotten to 3,000 likes in pre-shows before, but it's been a while, usually around the elections. Okay, so let's jump to a little bit more of what you can expect if you're watching Fox. I assume that most of you do not watch much Fox. But anyway, you can learn about inflation. You can also learn about a couple... it's like a minute 37. Do we have time? Do we have time? Let's watch a little bit of this video.
Focus more on the fact that in huge parts of the Midwest today, you can't go outside because the air quality is so bad because of wildfires that are made much worse by climate change. Look, I don't care if Pete Buttigieg travels on a private plane or a commercial plane. I care about the fact that we need real climate policy in this country. That's something that everyone should care about because there is an emergency here. And the longer the Republicans say there's not, the worse the situation gets.
I think we should care, though, about politicians talking out of both sides of their mouth. If you want to go green, go green. Flying a private plane is not going green. If you want to claim that, that global warming is to blame for such and such, then you need to put in your part and show the American people that you're serious about following on these theories that you're going to go green. I mean, it is a contradictive sort of stance, and it's sort of talking out of both sides of your mouth, and I think Americans are sick of that. But David Avella and Marie Harf, that's all the time we have. Thank you very, very much to you both. So air travel chaos across the country. Thousands of flights already canceling or delaying as Americans head out for the holiday weekend. It has been such a mess, folks. Plus, some of those travelers may also be facing brutal temperatures. Yesterday, we talked to a Texas rancher on what folks there are facing. Watch this.
Okay, so he's going to talk about how bad the heat is.
Triple-digit heat here, but it's very early in the year, and if we've got to go 3 months of this, June, July, and August, it's going to be a struggle.
Yeah, it's going to be a struggle. Far left green agenda, okay? Far left green agenda. They're literally going from people are getting sick in many cities because of the amount of smoke coming from these wildfires, which they admit is exacerbated by climate change, to far left green agenda. It's BS. Why are you talking about this stuff? To massive heat wave that conservative looking farmer dude is really worried about. I feel like one of these things is not like the other. I feel like maybe there's actually something there. Maybe, but they have to do the ridiculous diversions. Pete Buttigieg took a private plane to get to some disaster or something. Pete Buttigieg is not great. Pete Buttigieg deserves to be criticized. The fact that one person for the state for the Department of Transportation took a private plane is not itself the cause of climate change, particularly when, what do you think would happen if Pete Buttigieg said, you know what, I'm not going to I'm not going to fly, or I'm not going to go on a private plane, and in fact, we're going to outlaw them. You said you don't want me to speak out of both sides of my mouth, so I'm not going to. I'm going to be consistent. And in fact, we're going to make sure, what do you really think? Come on, man. What do you think is going to happen? Let me ask you a question. And you tell me if you think that I'm being naive. They did do 2 segments right there. Now, I'll be at the sandwich there. If we're doing a news metaphor, the meat was, it's a far left green agenda or whatever. But the 2 pieces of bread were, this is getting pretty rough, man. This is pretty bad. Do you think that maybe something will change? Am I being naive? Does it become unsustainable? People are dying from the heat. The smoke is really bad. People do not like boiling in 120-degree heat. Now, granted, at that point, it's probably too late at that point, but I don't know, man. Seems like it should be unsustainable. Okay, we're going to go to one more tweet. Blue Check tweets us out. Musk versus Zuck. Why are people incapable of seeing the people that they admire? That's not what they look like. That's obviously not what they look like. And when people replied pointing out, they get so mad. Why is it important to you that the right-wing douche that you like is sexy? Why is that? Anyway, okay. There we were talking about transportation. Let's talk now about infrastructure. Lauren Boebert, remember, wakes up every day thinking, today's the day that I'm going to say something and people are going to be like, that was clever. You made a good point, Boebert. Get out there and do it. Today is not that day. Because here's what she tweeted. An Amtrak passenger train just derailed in California. 2 weeks ago, a highway collapsed in Philadelphia. Stuff like this is going on constantly in America. We're sending our money all over the world, but our own country is falling down around us. We're going to take this in two parts. So the first is the substantive part. We're going to start with the substance. We're sending our money all over the world, but our own country is falling down around us. That's a good point. Infrastructure is failing. We went through the entire Trump administration, and they didn't do anything about it. You know, if only Biden had done something. If only Biden had an infrastructure bill. If only Biden had, in 2021, put together a deal to put $1.2 trillion into fixing roads, highways, bridges, all of that. If only. If only. And if only that had happened, then Boebert would have had an opportunity to vote for that bill. And if that happened, she could have voted against it. I just described reality. That's what actually happened. In 2021, they put together the big infrastructure bill. You lived through it, you remember. And she voted against it. She voted against it. Now look, she would say, yeah, but I didn't like some other stuff. No, I understand that. But like, you're just one congressperson, and you guys were in the minority. You don't get everything that you want. You voted against it. And then a couple of years later, you'll say, no, we should be doing the thing I didn't want us to do. So that's the substance. The unsubstance, I suppose, is, you remember her two issues? Amtrak passenger train derailed in California, highway collapse in Philadelphia. Thus, our infrastructure is bad. The fuck are you talking about? The highway collapsed in Philadelphia because a tanker truck crashed and set it on fire and destroyed it. I mean, I don't feel like that's the highway's fault. If anything, that's oil's fault. That's individual, automobiles' fault. It's not like it just randomly collapsed. The passenger train derailed. Passenger train derailments are a big deal, necessitating regulation, which she is not calling for, you'll notice. But in this particular case, the Amtrak passenger train that derailed in California derailed because it hit a truck. There was a truck there, and they hit it. Now, maybe there should be better regulations to make sure that they can see ahead of time that the truck's there or something. But it's not just like that the rail failed or something. That's not what it is. And the thing that makes these sorts of flubs even more ridiculous is you do not need to make up things to prove this point, Lauren Boebert, because your point is still a good one. Not coming from you because, again, you voted against that money. But there are bridges that are failing. There are highways that are terrible. There's potholes everywhere. There's not nearly enough mass transit available to a lot of Americans. You can talk about that. You don't need to make up stuff when the truth would actually prove your point for you. But the thing about that is that would require a little bit of research, or at least a few minutes of Googling, I suppose. Is she working on an infrastructure bill? You think she's going to raise taxes to put another $1 trillion in? Ridiculous. Okay, well, we have passed 1,000 likes. You all did as your bid. And so, Christie is going to be asked a question that the vast majority of Republicans fail on, that even Christie has previously failed on. But in this particular case, it is proving the point that I made a few weeks ago that Christie does appear to be freed up to finally be honest. Does not mean he's going to win the Republican primary, obviously. But here's what he has to say. We're going to watch as much of this as we can.
You're not going to vote for either
I
one
don't
of them.
want to vote for either one of them.
But will
because
you
neither
vote for
one of
them?
them are qualified, in my mind, to be president of the United States. We see Joe Biden out there. He doesn't look like he's even competent. And the bottom line is, how are we going to nominate someone who is under 2 sets of criminal charges now and still under investigation for 2 more? You know, we want to win this race. We're tired of losing. Under Donald Trump, Lawrence, we lost the House in 18, we lost the Senate and the White House in 20,
But Governor,
and we
ever
lost
since,
these other things in 22.
Ever since the indictment, Donald Trump has gone up in the polls. So how do you make that case to Republican voters when they essentially just double down in their support?
They haven't but Lawrence, with all due respect, they haven't doubled down on anything. No one's voted yet. And the fact is, if polls...
You don't put much stock into the polling.
Well, what I put, that's what it is today. You know what they ask you, how they ask those questions? You've been called by pollsters. They say, if the election were held today, well, if the election...
Okay, yeah, I'm not too concerned about that. I don't even know who the host is. It's a fair question. I do think, though, like, you're not a regular news station. You're Fox News. You're not objective. You're not, out of this process. So when you ask Chris Christie, well, I mean, what the hell? He keeps getting charged and he keeps moving up. Like, yes, what is Christie going to do about that? But, like, what are you going to do about that? Now, the answer, of course, is that they don't particularly care. But, like, it seems like the sort of thing that you'd want to do something about. Isn't it weird, in fact, that the more crimes he's charged with, the more they like him? But anyway, look, that's an aside. I want to focus on Chris Christie being, I think, the first asked the very simple question, which is, if it's Trump, will you support him? The answer should only be no. And his answer, finally, was no. Now, he, I believe, supported Trump in 2020. I think he, once the actual election happened, he moved on faster than the others. But in the past, they have all said, I mean, the few that will actually run against him, the few that will actually criticize him, will still say, yeah, but at the end of the day, I'm going to support him. Like, yeah, he should have done January 6th, but I think we should let him be president again. Yeah, he almost brought our country to the brink of collapse and, military control of the country. But I think he should be in control of the military again. Come on, man. Now, look, there is a lot of pressure that is being put on them by the Republican Party to do this. That is what that loyalty pledge is about, which, by the way, didn't Donald Trump in 2016 refuse to sign a loyalty pledge? But now they need to sign a loyalty pledge for him, the guy that wouldn't pledge to support them? But anyway, you have to do that. You cannot beat Trump without making the case against Trump. And you can't make the case against Trump if you're going to insist that, yes, I would still vote for him. Yeah, look, that can work in a lot of elections, potentially. Sometimes there aren't that significant differences between the candidates. And usually you do not have an apocalyptically bad criminal like Trump as part of your nominating battle. But the fact that Haley won't say it, and Ramaswamy won't say it, and Pence isn't going to say it, beyond that, they're talking about, they would pardon him even if they get in power. So even Trump being rejected by the voters isn't enough for them to actually move on. And if he's accepted, they care too much, they care far more, I should say, about clinging to power, having some tenuous connection to it, than they do about, the supposed values that would drive them to try to beat him. So Chris Christie does it right here. I doubt it matters. People don't care. I don't know how much all of you even care about his effect on the Republican primary. I think that it's important. I want to continue to talk about it, but he's not breaking through just yet. And look, that's to the point that I had made earlier, which is the only strategy to beat Trump is a full-on broadside attack. That doesn't mean it's likely to work. There may just be no good strategy. There's a lot of terrible strategies. There's a lot of strategies that have no chance. But even the best strategy might have a 2% chance. And maybe that's what we're seeing right here. Anyway, Sharon Reed is going to be joining us on the full show coming up very soon. So I hope that you join us for that. We're going to be talking about technology. Will you be licking your phone for your health? We'll try to figure it out. We've got a formerly big YouTuber having to respond to claims of being a groomer. Ghislaine Maxwell not enjoying her time in prison. We're going to be evaluating that. And, of course, Donald Trump's supposed comments about Ivanka. Brace yourself. I'll see you in a few.